Cinema Shogun here, and ever since Bryan Kohberger got arrested, I've had this one question on my mind. We know that Bryan Kohberger was watching the Idaho 4 for months, stalking their house for months, maybe even as far back as August, June, July, the summertime. And we know that his phone would be pinged outside of their house at odd hours of the night and early morning. So he was casing that house, sitting outside watching with those creepy, evil, staring eyes. But what made him ultimately decide to do what he did? What made him decide that that night would be the night? Why didn't he choose any other night that he was previously watching them? Did he spot like an opportunity? Or was there something else in his life that finally pushed him over the edge? That's a question that I've been wondering for a long time. Now, of course, none of this will be an excuse for what he did. I'm just interested in trying to figure out how his mind was working at the time, if you will. Well, it has now been revealed that Bryan Kohberger was fired from his teaching assistant job days before he got arrested, but he was actually under investigation at Washington State University for misconduct and bad behavior as a teacher's assistant. And this goes back months. About 11 days before he ultimately allegedly took these 4 students' lives, he had to go under a reevaluation. They had a meeting about how he could be better moving forward. And there was just a lot of turbulence, apparently, in his life at that time. So I'm wondering if the frustration he was dealing with ultimately pushed him over the edge. Him knowing that he was holding on by a string, being investigated at Washington State University, about to lose this teacher's assistant's gig. And the reasons why he was about to lose the job is what really sticks out as well. Now, I know how college campuses are, especially these days. And I know how society is. There's a lot of labels and words that are thrown around these days that are losing their meaning because people just use them all willy-nilly. You know, you're an ist, a phobe, a bad person, a bigot. These labels get thrown around all the time, but what they were saying about Bryan Kohberger at Washington State University was that he was sexist and that he treated the women in class differently than the men. He would be harsher grading their papers, and we've already heard that he was pretty harsh. He would leave long notes on people's papers. And he wouldn't grade them the way most teachers or teachers' assistants would grade papers. But then after the crime, the students say that he was a little more relaxed. He stopped leaving the notes. He stopped being as critical. Now, I don't know if that was because he got some frustration off of his chest by doing what he's alleged of doing or accused of doing, or maybe he was scared of losing this teacher's position or this teacher's assistant position. But the reason why this sticks out to me so much is because they've been painting this picture of Bryan Kohberger since he got caught. That he's probably an incel that had trouble connecting with women and therefore grew resentful, started hating women almost. And these accusations about him being sexist, if you will, at Washington State University, it kind of aligns with this crime. What if Bryan knew that he was ultimately going to lose this job? And he was going to lose this job because of him being labeled as a sexist. Maybe that made him hate women even more. Maybe that is what pushed him over the edge to go ahead and do what he is accused of doing. Now, if Bryan was watching these individuals as far back as what we've been told, then I think that Bryan probably had something on his mind or something up his sleeve the whole time. I think that Bryan maybe was battling with himself. Should he do this or should he not? And then ultimately, which side won? I'm saying that maybe these accusations of him being a sexist pushed him over the edge and made him want to go ahead and carry out the crime that he was already thinking about committing. And of course, his targets were 4 young women, 4 young college students. Maybe not young college students at his college. Maybe that would be too difficult to get away with for him. Maybe he wanted to take out his animosity and his frustrations that he had with the women or the teachers at this college out on someone, but he was afraid to take it out there, so he channeled it somewhere else. Somewhere about, 10 miles down the road. Looking at the situation, I think we're all trying to understand how and why someone would do something like this. What is Bryan Kohberger's motive? Make no mistake about it. When you look into true crime cases, that's like the number one thing that people want to find out, even investigators. What was their motive? What ultimately led them to do this? And that's the question that I keep asking when it comes to Kohberger. And every day, I have a different answer. And what I mean by that is every day I form a different opinion because there's so many details about this case that keep coming out, and I'm battling inside as well, trying to figure out, okay, was this his motive? Was this his motive? Was he really targeting them? Was it more about this or that? I'm all over the place juggling this as well, so I want to know how you all feel. Why do you think Bryan did what he did? Do you think this is what ultimately pushed him over the edge? It's interesting timing. And I always tell you all, pay attention to the timing of things. We know that he was watching them as far back as the summer, but this whole process that was going on with him in school and this teacher's assistant's position and him getting in trouble and having these altercations with professors, that was going back to September, October. And it didn't end, and I guess until, sometime later. So it's all fits inside the timeline of this being this extra pressure and these extra problems that he was suffering from or suffering through. And, these details are very interesting to me because up until this point, all we've heard is that he was the ideal perfect student. We've all been trying to figure out how could the ideal perfect student wind up doing this? Well, now we know that he was having some issues before then. So I can guarantee you all there's more info out there that we haven't heard yet. Maybe we'll never hear it. Maybe it will come out tomorrow. But there's other little details out there that will help us put the pieces of this puzzle together, if you will. But let me know your opinions and thoughts down in the comment section. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.